hockey night across the nation. It's hockey night. It's hockey night.
Another one of the terrific submissions for Song Quest. That's Echtelin's song. Dave Gunning won it, and you'll hear his award-winning song open the primetime telecast for the Crusaders, Bobcats, and the Habs and the Leafs coming up at 5 o'clock local time, 7 o'clock Eastern here in Scotiabank Hockey Day in Canada. All right, here's the story of a young hockey player who had her career cut short, and she turned her attention to Miss Universe Canada. And getting in shape, she's a lot like Steven Stamkos. It's not about starving yourself. It's about working out, diet, nutrition. She worked with Belinda Kim, her trainer, ended up third runner-up in Miss Universe. Katie Stark's story now with Mark Conley. Mark.
It's a family tradition at the Stark household. The annual backyard rink has always been something Katie Stark and her brother and sisters look forward to.
My whole family played hockey, so basically between all of us and the family have a full team, and it became part of the family culture. So at that point, I couldn't think of any other sport that I would rather play.
A recent grad from York University, Katie received a full athletic scholarship. Hockey was the sport of choice until a serious injury during an exhibition game would end her playing days as a York Lion before the regular season even started.
I sustained a pretty serious concussion. It was a huge adjustment in every aspect of life. Initially I struggled a lot in school, but I was determined not to take a year off.
It was important for me to keep Katie on our roster even though she wasn't going to play, so that she could access that financial award. And I think that as coaches, you have a duty to players that are injured to help support them through that injury.
Despite the fact that I never played again after first year, he kept me on the roster and he renewed my scholarship every year until I graduated in 2013.
She's a bright light. I think that she has a lot of different elements that that I'm fortunate enough to have seen in my career through university sport, but she's special. Was a very strong athlete, a really solid person. She comes from a great family. She's bright and articulate and easy to get along with.
When I needed extra time for exams and stuff, that's when Dan would move in and he would talk to my professors. So I had help on every aspect. So I'm very lucky.
Maintaining an A+ average, Stark wouldn't let the injury keep her down. Hockey would take a back seat. But even before her love of the game was flipped upside down, her life would start to change.
The summer before I arrived at York in 2008, I made an impulse decision to try out for Miss Teen Canada, and I won. I think they liked the idea of this all-Canadian hockey playing turned model. It's always a really proud moment to represent Canada.
She would go on to represent Canada in Miss Universe traveling the world, but would still not feel 100%.
I felt very proud of her. When she won the Miss Teen Canada and then had to travel around, she was still a pretty sick girl, and so I worried about her overall health.
I know you all can see it. She's Miss Canada and she's 22 years old.
I always wanted to wear, some sort of hockey jersey as the national costume, but we had troubles making it feminine, but in the end I wore this awesome maple leaf, and if I could redo it, I would maybe try harder to get the hockey jersey incorporated into that.
After 5 long years, Katie is finally symptom-free. From Miss Canada and now a Toronto investment analyst, Katie continues her quest to break the boundaries of women in hockey.
That story reminds me, how hockey's all about analytics now. Everybody's using numbers to try and decide who's going to win the game. Statistics, they say, are like bikinis. They reveal a lot, but not everything. We're in Lloydminster, Scotiabank Hockey Day in Canada. Nice story on Katie Stark there. Concussion-free, still knockout. Speaking of down on the canvas, Bill Brownridge is from the town of Vaughan, Saskatchewan. Anybody even have a clue where Vaughan is? Doesn't even exist anymore, to be truthful, but it exists. In fact, it's worldwide renowned for the great art that features fat paint and heavy oil. Here's Bill's story now with Carly Agro. Carly.
Uncle Bill always starts the same way, a spontaneous sketch. At 81 years old, he still paints from memory.
To me, oftentimes, I will start with think of a phrase from my growing up years, and I'll build a whole scene out of that.
The scenes that Bill Brownridge paints are beyond beautiful. They transport whoever is admiring them to a familiar place in time, somewhere we've all been before, somewhere we can all remember.
I like telling stories. So the first of all, is, I think you notice, is that every painting tells a story.
The only story his paintings don't tell is his own. That begins in Vaughan, Saskatchewan, a small village outside of Lloydminster.
It starts, of course, very importantly with being born with handicapped. So the very fact that I couldn't skate.
Spina bifida kept Bill on the bench as a boy. It was his brothers, Bob and Don, who inspired him. Bob's talent took him all the way to the New York Rovers of the American Hockey League. Eventually, Bob and Don joined the same team, the Royal Canadian Air Force. They piloted planes during the Second World War. It was then that Bill wondered if his life would be special too.
I call myself a great compensator, because I couldn't do certain things, and so then I tried harder to do other things.
Bill's hard work has paid off. His art helped secure the 1988 Winter Olympics.
And of course then they used the drawings of these sporting events in the bid to get the Olympics, and they were very successful, yeah.
Calgary Flames fans owe Bill a debt of gratitude too.
I did a lot of work with them, from their programs to their Christmas cards to their ads, and I did help introduce black into their uniforms.
Bill's paintbrush has also earned a place in the Hockey Hall of Fame. When Edmonton and Calgary hosted the World Junior Hockey Championships, it was Uncle Bill who was asked to capture the spirit of the game in an original work. Bill's ability runs in the family. Lloydminster's Michelle Lake is an artist too, and turns to her Uncle Bill for inspiration. He told her to go within.
I didn't get it right away, and then gradually it sunk in, and things that he's said over time, at the time they don't even process, and then it'll click into place, and I think, oh, that's what he means.
Michelle took Uncle Bill's advice when she was asked to create a piece of art that would represent hockey and the community of Lloydminster on Hockey Day. Uncle Bill isn't ready to call it a career. He still paints every day. Just don't ask him how long it takes.
At my shows, a lot of people ask me that, how long did it take you to do that painting? And I say 80 years. Because, it's almost as if they're trying to calculate my hourly rate.
The art is still for sale, but the legacy that he has built is priceless.
Thanks a lot, Carly Agro. I'm sure that Bill knows the story of Picasso. Was asked, doesn't it bother you to get so much money for a sketch that took you 5 minutes to do? And Picasso's response was 5 minutes and a lifetime, just like you, Bill. All right, Cassie Campbell-Pascal now and Marty McSorley. Cassie.
Thanks, Ron. It looks like they're going into a shootout here, but Marty, it's funny, all the stories that you can tell about winning the Stanley Cup with the Edmonton Oilers, and the one that really struck me this week was you talked about the '87 Cup, and last night at the banquet you brought up your late father, Bill, and in that special moment when he got to come onto the ice with you and you were like, Dad, we got the McSorley name on the cup. How special was that?
It was unbelievable. I remember being on the bench when they took our helmets and our gloves, and the realization that it's actually going to come true. I'm actually going to be able to win a Stanley Cup, something you've dreamed about, and it was such a fabric of our family, hockey and playing with my brothers and sisters, and my mom's such a big part of it, and to have that, and then my dad be right there and to give him a big hug and share that moment with them, and it was about getting our family name on the cup, and which is so special, and my brothers and sisters have sent me emails and times when they get to see the cup, and it's so special. It's something that I'll never ever forget.
Well, it's amazing to see all the alumni come out to support the event, and the rink is just amazing what Lloydminster's done here. But you played in the very first Heritage Classic. It was the Canadians in Edmonton, and you actually scored a goal, Marty, so that was pretty exciting.
Well, the linesman said to me, Marty, that was a great goal. I'm like, what are you surprised about? But they said, do you want to play forward or defense? And I had an opportunity to play with Kenny Linsman and Dave Semenko, and I said, I'll play forward. I had so much respect for both those guys, and we had so much fun. We were all little boys again to see Wayne and Mark and all the guys skating. We're back together again, a group of guys that I was able to win. We loved it, being together. We were like brothers.
Just quick, who's your team picking for the shootout?
Our team, absolutely. We got guys like Wayne Babbage, who's old but still great hands. Mark Napier led the Montreal Canadiens in scoring. Fernando Pisani, big goal for the Oilers. We're loaded. We're stacked.
All right, well, I'm not allowed to cheer for any team, and neither are you, Ron, but we're going to go back to you.
You know what, Cassie? Marty will remember we nearly kidnapped his dad out of Detroit. Bill came on the 99er All-Star Tour of Europe back in '94, and that was just after Walter Gretzky had the aneurysm in '91. I firmly believe his dad and Jack Coffey, Paul Coffey's dad, really were the beginning of the comeback for Wally Gretzky. All right, Chevrolet iDesk, Andy Petrillo. Andy.
Well, Ron, my first ever job, I worked at a snack bar at the local hockey rink, and I would start at 5:30 a.m. to brew some fresh pots of coffee to make sure the parents got their caffeine fix. And parents like Ben's dad. This is 6-year-old Ben after 6 a.m. practice. He plays for the St. Albert Blues, and he's channeling his inner Don Cherry with the thumbs up. And then Paula Broadwick, how beautiful is this view? She's celebrating Scotiabank Hockey Day in Canada, paying homage to the rolling green hills of Wales in the United Kingdom. And then this is from Oakville, Ontario. There's Owen and James Barr along with their dad on their outdoor rink. And Dad, I'm pretty sure that's going to be a hooking penalty. And let's give the furry family members some love as well. These Cavalier King Charles pooches, well, they're clearly at odds. They belong to Desiree Skinner. 2-year-old Reese is the Leafs fan, and she takes after her dad. And 10-month-old Rolo is all about the Habs like her mama. So clearly the humans in that household are at odds as well. But here's a little advice to furry family members and to kids alike. Whoever's the one responsible for feeding you, cheer for their team. Ron.
Excellent, Andy. Pause and think about that for just a moment. Vic Juba came here with Husky Oil, and he was just a great volunteer. He brought the Canada and Summer Winter Games, was really great in terms of the community and how it grew. And the theater named after Vic is where we held the concert that is each and every year a part of the show. It's called Stole This From a Hockey Card. It's Dave Bedini's brainchild, and here's a sample of the fun we had Thursday night here.
Well, we got a great night of entertainment for you tonight at the Vic Juba Theater.
If it wasn't for the winter, then we would never see the snow.
Songquest champion 2013-2014, Dave Gunning, a game going on.
Down to the lake, to the pond, to the river, there's a game going on forever. We get it, we get it. What's it called?
All these strangers that are coming out here at this microphone, I'm the only legitimate one who should be here because I was born in Alberta and raised in Saskatchewan. Now,
I was told by somebody in the back that you may not recognize me, so I was to do this. Mamas of babies in the game will know exactly what I'm talking about.
Ladies and gentlemen, 1,425 career points, 6 Stanley Cups, the 1979 Hart Trophy winner. Please welcome Brian Trottier.
Oh, hockey game is the best game you can name, and the best game you can name. That's a good hockey game.
6-time Stanley Cup winner, Brian Trottier. What a show Brian gave us. Val-Marie, Saskatchewan. Lance Ward, former Red Deer Rebel. Oh, he never had those hands in Red Deer. And Nathan Dempsey with nifty hands as well. NHL alumni versus Lloyd in the alumni.
Courtesy Air is a proud supporter of Scotiabank Hockey Day in Canada from Lloydminster. Log on to courtesyair.ca for more information.
Back on Scotiabank Hockey Day. All right, get it out of your system. You want to say hello to your dad. What is your name?
I'm Sean.
And what's your dad's name?
My dad's name is Rory.
Hello, Dad.
Steve.
Hi, Vance.
That's a PEI. Oh, no. Did you see how well Brad Richards played today and they didn't pick him a star? Disgraceful. Yeah, I know. Big hello to our Pharaoh. We're going actually not far from Prince Edward Island. We're going further in the Atlantic provinces. Yes, he was great today. This is a story of defeating the odds. It's a really heartwarming story. Takes us from Newfoundland to Quebec City, where the Ramparts yesterday named a player captain of their team. The Ramparts, his name is Kurt Etchegary. Enjoy.
Charge your glasses to a wonderful family, to a new grandson, and to a healthy Kurt, who has, in true warrior form, returned to the game after 2 hip surgeries and several procedures with more determination and grit.
Cheers.
Here's to us.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers.
My name is Kurt Etchegary. I play hockey for the Quebec Ramparts in the Quebec Major Junior League. Born in St. John's, Newfoundland, 19 years old. Grew up a family guy. Grew up my parents, Glenn and Katrina, and I have a sister, Caitlin, and a brother, Marcus. We're all pretty focused on family. It's the way we were brought up. Hockey was always big in the family. Since I was 3 years old, started on the outdoor rink, and every Friday, Saturday night, just hockey on the TV. So it was just kind of brought up within me, and I fell in love with the game.
Kurt had some medical challenges when he was born. He was diagnosed with microcystic lymphangioma, and for a while there he was spending quite a bit of time at the Janeway, back and forth seeing doctors and specialists between here and Montreal as well. Hockey became, I think, an outlet for Kurt.
Growing up, had a lot of challenges and stuff like that. I mean, not as much when I was younger, but last year I had 2 hip surgeries. This year I had 2 operations where they went in with a needle through the heart to try and remove fluid from around the heart in the sac, and that didn't work. So I just had recently a pericardial effusion with Dr. David Mulder in Montreal, and it was successful. So I'm back on the ice.
Kurt is not one to complain. The new medical issues that came up in the last 6 months, I guess, it was completely different.
I was drafted to Quebec City out of the draft in Victoriaville 3 years ago. It was just an absolute dream come true to be drafted by Quebec City. I went to the draft last year in New Jersey, and unfortunately, because of some miscommunication between Central Scouting and some doctors, the clearance from the medical team about there being no fluid around my heart was not correctly received, and because of that, all the teams shied down into drafting me because they weren't sure if there was a problem with the heart, and there was no risk but wanted to be taken by the team. Now everything has been cleared up, and I ended up getting an invite to the Detroit Red Wings, the camps, both camps. If I met a little guy with microcystic lymphangioma, I would probably just tell him that no challenge is too big to overcome, and all you have to do is put your mind to the grind, and as long as you keep working hard and put everything into it, you never know what can happen. And for me, hopefully, I'm only a couple steps away, and I'm just pray that one day I'll get there, just like every other guy who's playing junior hockey around the world.
Kurt Etchegary, is that not a great story? He wears number 19. Brian Trottier, obviously the star, stole this from a hockey card, number 19. Stevie Y, the architect of Team Canada, going to the Sochi Olympic Games. Joe Sakic, the hero of Dan Snyder. More on that a little bit later on Scotiabank Hockey Day in Canada. Back up to Prince George now. We got a Western Hockey League game, tilt between the Cougars and Edmonton Oil Kings. Here's Shane Foxman. Shane.
Thanks very much, Ron. First intermission, what a difference a day makes. Yesterday, the Prince George Cougars took it on the chin from Edmonton. Today, it seems to be a different story. Troy Bork joining us now, captain of the Cougars, draft pick of the Colorado Avalanche. Troy, what makes the difference between last night and tonight?
I think the biggest difference is the boys came out with a better effort. Yesterday we were pretty disappointed. We didn't, we don't like to lose, ain't nothing in our own rink, and tonight with the fan support and everyone coming out, just gave us a bigger drive, and the boys have been proving it so far.
Well, you gave up a goal a minute in, and I'm sure a lot of the guys on the bench were going, here we go again, but you answered right away. How important was that?
Yeah, one of the biggest things we talk about in the room is if you let one in, not to deflate us. So that was our biggest problem in previous games, is that if we let in one, then it deflates us. But tonight we came back and scored one right away, and then it just kept rolling, and everyone's producing, and it's nice to see.
Seems like a lot of animosity on the ice today. Is that kind of what happens when you play on back-to-back nights?
Yeah, for sure. Guys are fired up, and definitely they want to win 2 games in a row, and we need 2 points for that playoff push. So it's going to be intense, and the next 2 periods aren't going to be anything less than what it was in the first.
Well, listen, thanks very much, Troy, and good luck the rest of the way.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks much. Troy Bork, captain of the Prince George Cougars, 4-1 after 1. Ron?
Shane, thanks kindly. Carly Agro, as you well know, will be with us at Sochi coverage of the Olympic Games coming up. Opening ceremonies on the 7th of February. Carly started right here in the business, spent 2 lovely years working in Lloydminster, and one of her heroes, she has asthma. She's a star goaltender in soccer, and for her asthma, she needed a lot of emergency treatment from time to time, and she could always depend on this man. Dr. Saeed's with Carly.
Thanks so much, Ron. Joining me now is Dr. Raf Saeed. He has been a part of the Lloydminster community since 1976. He's wearing the jacket as evidence of this. And Raf, you actually emigrated to Canada all the way from India. What was it about Lloydminster that has made you stay all these years?
One word, hockey.
And what exactly about the hockey community here has made you want to be a part of it so badly?
It's the teamwork, the friends, the relationships you create when you become part of a hockey team. I was invited to be the physician for the Junior B hockey in 1976, and I've been involved not just in hockey, but hockey is a community builder, and I've been involved in the community. It put me into just about every aspect of Lloydminster's life since 1976.
And you have a very interesting connection. We just saw a wonderful story about Dr. Mulder and his work in Montreal and the time that he spends with the Canadians. How did you meet him, and what exactly do you guys have in common?
Well, it's incredible. Hockey not only builds communities, it brings the country closer to each other, to us. I met Dr. Mulder at a concussion conference in Toronto, and we immediately hit it off, and we had a lot in common. He'd played in the Lloydminster area, he knew some of the names, and then he went on to tell me that he's actually from Eston, Saskatchewan, and that's the home of Bill and Bill Hartnell and Joy. Bill Hartnell was a principal in Eston, and not only that, Dr. Mulder raised funds, paid for the Eston rink, and so did Scott Hartnell. And I have been looking after Scott Hartnell for a long time when he was a little boy. So the whole world is connected through hockey.
And I hear that you may or may not have actually saved Scott Hartnell's career. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, he had an injury. I don't know if he saved or not, but he injured his wrist when he was 11 years old. And it was a little, a difficult diagnosis. So I had it organized. So I sent him to a colleague of mine. And the colleague confirmed that Scott should take some rest. And, rest is more important because sometimes coaches and parents want to push their players and it becomes a chronic injury.
Well, there you have it. Dr. Raf Saeed, a very crucial part of Lloydminster and the hockey community. Thank you so much for taking the time to tell your story with us.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure, and thank you, CBC and Scotiabank, for being here in Lloydminster.
Ron, we'll send it back to you.
Cheers, Carly. The alumni game, couple of hijinks here. This is the shootout. David Peltier putting on a little bit of a show and decided not to shoot on goal at first. Then he did this, and Louis DeBrusque thought he could match that. There's the man you see on the Edmonton Oilers broadcasts, Louis DeBrusque. 5-4 of the final. NHL alumni defeated the Lloyd alumni. What a day. Our coverage of Scotiabank Hockey Day in Canada continues. Back in Lloydminster and Scotiabank Hockey Day in Canada, you can see NHL revealed, a season like no other. What with the Winter Classic, the Coors Light Stadium Series, Heritage Classic, the Olympic Games in Sochi, Russia. That's Thursday night, 9 o'clock, 9:30 in Newfoundland on CBC. A chance to visit with your NHL stars behind the scenes. Well, the Alberta Junior Hockey League, I was very blessed to do public address announcing for the Red Deer Rustler and saw all the Sutter boys out of Viking come through the Red Deer program. Today, the AJHL announced its top 50 all-time, and here are some of the names of the players who made the list. You can go onto their website to check out the top 50 greatest AJHL stars. The Sutters, obviously, John Davidson leading the way, Lanny McDonald, right down on through. Danny Heatley was a fantastic sniper in Calgary. Saw Scotty Hartnell there. Chris Phillips and Mason Raymond. So AJHL.com to check out the top 50. Well, CJ Drake. Let's start with CJ Drake. He was in Yorkton, Saskatchewan. He was a teacher. Don, I didn't think you were coming until the actual game itself. What's your name? Matt. Hey, Matt, you're looking good. What was I talking about? Oh, yeah, CJ Drake in Yorkton, Saskatchewan. He was he inspired his players by a poem from the UK, and he would say, go through life like a torch aflame. Play up, play up, play up the game. And he inspired his son, Claire, who became one of the greatest coaches in history, the Dean. His story now with Mark Connolly.
The legend of Claire Drake reverberates around his namesake arena.
I couldn't figure out how such a quiet, unassuming man could get his team to play so fierce.
Claire Drake coached the University of Alberta Golden Bears for 28 seasons, setting a record for coaching wins at the Canadian university level. His motto?
It's amazing what can be accomplished when no one cares who gets the credit.
Randy Gregg won 5 Stanley Cups with the Edmonton Oilers, but he honed his game playing for Claire Drake at the U of A.
Many of the people who have been taught by him are now very successful in the NHL, and I think if you talk to them, they'd all say that if it wasn't for Claire Drake, they wouldn't have half the career they have right now.
Mike Babcock took some of the pressure. One of those is Red Wings coach Mike Babcock, who once coached at Alberta's Red Deer College. Babcock is Canada's Olympic coach as well, a role Claire Drake filled in 1980 in Lake Placid.
Claire Drake's a great man who had a huge impact on players, but maybe even a bigger impact on coaching and people in the profession. But I really believe he gave guys like me a chance.
He provided the blueprint for all of us to follow.
St. Louis Blues coach Ken Hitchcock was mentored by Drake as a young coach in Edmonton.
I get frustrated by this because he's a cut above all of us, but I don't think because of the program he coached in, I don't think he's well known. That's what disappoints me, is nobody's recognized what he's done for all of us. And his fingerprints are on anybody from the West that's coached professional hockey.
Claire Drake is now 85 years old. He retired as a coach almost 30 years ago. His supporters are submitting his name for a 3rd time to the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Claire's going to get his due. I hope he does. He's earned it. He deserves it. But knowing him, I don't think it matters. But it sure as heck matters to all of us around Claire.
So many things keep coming up in my mind when I'm watching the show. Mike Babcock's wife, Renee, is from here. The Dunham family's a big family in Lloydminster, so Mike would want that mentioned for sure. That's Joel Ward, scored a big goal the other night, and Drew Power. Do you remember? You probably don't, of course, but we mentioned Drew, who passed away in Prince Edward Island. 2 years ago, we did the show in PEI, and last year in Peterborough, we paid homage to Drew Power. His friend Joel scored a huge goal against Toronto Maple Leafs for Washington this year. Loss. You know, they always say grief is the price you pay for love. Dominic Moore, thinking of him today, and his wife, who we lost this past year. And, of course, it was the 10-year anniversary of Stevie Moore getting hurt. But here's maybe one of the toughest for all of us in the community of hockey. The Snyder family have been such a great inspiration. It was 10 years ago that Don Waddell, the GM of the Atlanta Thrashers, told Danny Snyder, get a house. You're sticking with the team. And, of course, we all know that he lost his life in a car accident 10 years ago. Tim warms me now with the memorial tribute to Dan Snyder.
Centers out in front, they score! In double overtime, guess who? Danny Snyder! And one shoots, fired, they score! Here's Snyder over the line, left side. Snyder into the left circle, Snyder into the slot, back in, he scores!
The game of hockey lost a good man 10 years ago. A good man who touched many people. A good man we should never forget.
It's very difficult for me to put into words the tremendous sense of loss that we all feel over passing of Dan Snyder.
Like a blink of an eye, the old saying, in a blink of an eye. It's, oof. It was like yesterday, and it's 10 years.
It does not seem like 10 years. At times, it seems like a different lifetime. There's been a lot of wonderful people that we've met in the last 10 years, and we always try and take the positives from that.
The foundation that sprouted as a result of his death helped pay for an arena in his hometown that now bears his name.
I think it's something that makes us very, very proud. Dan was a very loyal young man. I know it was always very important to him that he be recognized as being an Elmira native.
It was hard at first, but the fun part for me now is knowing that my little grandsons will play hockey here. So that's exciting.
His strong legacy stretches in the form of scholarships from his foundation to humanitarian and leadership awards across 3 leagues, including his Old Thrashers franchise, now in Winnipeg.
That's a legacy moving forward, or continuous, that continues on. And that's exciting, so that people down the road know who he is, or who he was.
It was a lot of fun to reconnect with the fans again, and keeps his connection to that franchise alive. It was a real honor for them to carry on that tradition.
Snyder left an imprint on everyone he met, from fans to teammates to trainers to coaches. His coach in Atlanta still carries a keepsake given to him from Snyder's mother.
She pulled Danny's watch that the cops had brought back after the accident, and she gave me the bracelet, and she said, each link represents a player, and you're the coach, and my son was in love with you. So there's not a game that I coached since that accident that Dan Snyder is in my suit jacket with me.
Snyder was supposed to be too small to play in the NHL, but one scout believed in him and saw his heart.
He was humble, and the other thing, the way I describe it is he had that twinkle in his eye. The way he played the game, you could see in his eyes where he had that fire and that passion in him. And Dan was someone, he had to work for everything that he got, and he knew that was the hand that was dealt to him, and that's how he played it out.
You can see where Snyder got his strength from. His parents and family exhibited remarkable forgiveness toward the teammate who drove the car that night 10 years ago.
We do not lay blame on Danny Heatley for the accident that took our son from us. Danny is a good person, and no one feels more sorry for what happened than he does.
There wasn't conditions at the time, and there certainly isn't now.
And yeah, I think we all feel the same. And, it's the past. There's nothing we can do about it. There's nothing we can change about what happened. And we move on and live each day to the fullest that we possibly can. And that doesn't mean we forget what happened, but we don't dwell on the past constantly, and we wouldn't change anything.
One of the main sources of inspiration and comfort for us was the hockey world, right from, the minor hockey group in Elmira here, right up to the NHL, and a lot of people in between.
We got hundreds, thousands of cards in the floral arrangements, and they came from almost every NHL team, the AJHL, men's hockey, women's hockey, college hockey, university hockey, former players. We couldn't keep track of them all. We had so many. But it was just warming and encompassing the hockey community, what they did for us. Because of who he was, what he meant to so many other people, besides just his family. No, he won't be forgotten.
All our love to Graham and Luann and Erica and Jake. Kevin Cheveldayoff, GM of the Winnipeg Jets, Bob Hartley, the Calgary Flames, Greg Westlake from the National Sledge Hockey Team, all buddies of Danny Snyder. Snides forever. Faith, hope, and love. And the greatest of these love endures. Just a spectacular day in the border city of Lloydminster as we welcome you back. Brian McFarland, legend of Hockey Night in Canada. That's his star, Peter Puck. And we have all kinds of fun going on inside and outside, getting ready for a big game at the Civic Center between the Bobcats and the Crusaders in the AJHL. Well, the Burlington Eagles, you may be familiar with this story if you're a fan of Scotiabank Hockey Day in Canada. This is the 7th year now. The Eagles have conducted a huge food drive, which has been used to inspire teams right across the country.
This is our 8th annual gift. It started off slow and small, and then it's grown every year, and it's grown exponentially lately, and now we're ready to take it in a new direction. We've been very successful at really trying to wipe out hunger in Burlington, and there's over 3,000 families in Burlington, which is a pretty wealthy community, but we still have over 3,000 families that need food bank. And this time of year, they're low. So we decided to ramp it up a little and make it a competition.
If we win the food drive, we get to skate with the Hamilton Bulldogs.
It just gets blown away every year. We are flabbergasted. Last year, we doubled the year before. And this community has a reputation of being one of the best communities to live in Canada. And it's because of this community and the people in the community which makes it that way. They go out and we put down the challenge, and they go out every year and raise the bar. It's really incredible to see.
Hi, we're the Barracudas, and we're here to get cut food for the giving.
There you go, girls.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay.
It makes it fun that we get to come out here and give food back to less fortunate people.
We have a whole group of young people who are learning what it means to be socially responsible, who learn about giving back to their community.
Gene Longfield has done a tremendous amount of work with this, who's the person who really is in charge of this whole thing for our club. And I know that it's her goal to wipe out hunger in Canada, frankly. And so, I mean, why wouldn't you set the target high, I suppose?
225,019 pounds.
Our community is totally invested in this event. Our real goal is to get outside of Burlington with this event, to let other communities know how they can be as successful as we are. And really our goal is to eradicate hunger across the country.
That's Gene Longfield. And Gene, I know a lot of teams watching that story who want to be a part of it. If you have an association anywhere in the country and would like to contribute to the Eagles program, there's the way you can reach Gene and the Eagles in Burlington: online, via Twitter, also by email. There's a great way to involve yourself in the gift of giving back. All right, Jim Hewson, every year he does an essay for Scotiabank Hockey Day in Canada. He grew up in Fort St. John, northern British Columbia. Their team was the Flyers, the senior hockey team. Big night for them was Wednesday and Saturday nights in particular. And Jim always got a kick out of the way all week long. The message was, work hard in practice and you'll be great Saturday night. And he took that to his career at Hockey Night in Canada and said, if I just practice and work hard all week long, Saturday is recreation. Here's Jim now with a rather introspective look at a Canadian perspective.
In the beginning, this was the community of hockey. Frozen prairies, lakes, dugouts, rivers, and only the coldest of indoor rinks. Arenas were the community centers across Canada, and hockey was a recreation that worked in a long, cold winter. And we got really good at it. Doubtless Canada's insatiable appetite for hockey over a century grew with our success. There weren't a lot of sports where Canada could boast it was the best in the world. So the whole country became the community of hockey, and we embraced the game with such indulgence that the winter world took notice. Through the Soviet Union, Northern Europe, there grew a fondness for the game and a curiosity about how and why Canadians were so good at it. And over time, and with Olympic participation, the game has gone global. Well, sort of. The International Ice Hockey Federation now has 72 member countries, including Jamaica with just one rink. That's 2 fewer than Iceland. Back in North America, the pond froze over around us. U.S. border states and cities caught on. A hockey community grew in Alaska, as it should. Mario Lemieux and Sid Crosby resurrected a healthy hockey community in Pennsylvania. The NHL got players from Tennessee and Texas, and even Southern California has its homegrown stars like Bennett. And while we took pride in spreading the seed, we were shocked to find the others took our knowledge and ideas, expanded upon them, and began to beat us. This was an outrage. They'd taken our game and ganged up on us with it. And so in typically Canadian fashion, our reaction was to turn on each other. We weren't teaching skills. Then our coaching was poor. We were just bullies. Lately, we've gone a little further into the dissection of the game. It costs too much. We fight too much. It's dangerous and elitist. For a country that loves the game, we sure spend a lot of time squawking about it. Internal debate is okay. We do it because we care. But I think our helmets got on too tight. What we just might have done with our obsessive compulsion over hockey is convince a wide range of people new to the game or with young families that hockey's not only too expensive and dangerous, but the rinks are solely occupied by lunatics. And we've convinced ourselves we're going backwards and the game isn't what it used to be. I think Canada gets its collective shorts in a knot, and I believe that's an old hockey expression, about hockey, because we treat the NHL and the world stage as though we're all on it. But the issues at elite levels are separate from the game that the vast majority play, a snapshot of the hockey world. Hockey Day always reminds me that back on the dugout where it all began, the game isn't perfect, but it's still strong. We could use some more rinks, we could use less structure, but Canada is still the first community of hockey. And what we really need to do is open more doors for new Canadians, old Canadians, all Canadians to play and play and play at every and any level they so choose.
Great job, Jim. Jim will be with Craig Simpson, Glenn Healy, and David Amber, who's got something on that topic of opening doors coming up. They'll work the Habs and the Leafs, our primetime telecast here on Scotiabank Hockey Day in Canada. Andy Petrillo's at the Chevrolet iDesk. Andy.
Well, Ron, touching on the passion, that's what Jim was doing of hockey. And we know many NHL hockey teams give back to their communities in many ways. And one of those ways is they usually sponsor on-ice sessions. And at one particular clinic hosted by the Calgary Flames was this young girl, Jada Perkins. And she she played boys hockey up until the Pee Wee level, and the Flames gave out these T-shirts. Well, Jada crossed out the word guys and rightfully put in girls. So time to make some new T-shirts. Whatever you sell, give Jada 10%. Andrew Glass and his son Reese, well, they're in desperate need of a new dentist. They're in Toronto, Ontario, and they're actually heading to tonight's game between the Leafs and Habs. And hopefully the fans at the games treat each other a lot better than these two little munchkins, Kellen Nessam and Enzo Amadio. Well, they need a ref to break things up in this one. You got a long life ahead of you guys. You got to get along with each other. And quickly, I just want to say, this is a keychain that was given to me by a young boy just moments ago, Austin Dubois, 7 years old, from Prince Albert. He and his sister Jacqueline, along with their grandmother Val, are making these keychains and selling them because they're trying to raise enough money to buy tickets to watch their beloved team, the Pittsburgh Penguins, the next time they come out west to play either Calgary or Edmonton. So very special, Ron. You know, we meet a lot of fans and they tell some incredible stories. They actually left some keychains behind for you and Don, too.
Great, Andy. Thanks kindly for that. You know, Alex Toulemont moved from France to Canada, and like so many newcomers, was trying to find a league, a team, or at least a game. 4 years ago in Vancouver, he created a website that's now delivered over 36,000 players to 10,000 rinks around the world. Here's David Amber with that story.
A typical Tuesday in Vancouver, a pickup hockey game between friends. Friends that met as members on hockeycommunity.com.
We are in more than 20 countries. We have more than 20,000 players, and we have generated about 25,000 hockey games in the world.
Alexander Toulemont created hockeycommunity.com with the goal of making hockey more accessible to anyone, anywhere.
We want you to be able to find a game right now, whether it's at lunch, night, it's in the middle of nowhere, or in the busiest city in town.
We see our growth being through great content, great word of mouth, and really having such a great product that it will spread naturally.
And the community that uses Hockey Community is spreading. Vancouver is the website's epicenter, boasting nearly half its members. But with 150,000 visits each month, the site is bringing hockey enthusiasts together around the globe.
The stereotype we have back home in Russia is that people in Canada are really friendly, and Hockey Community proves that. So it gives you a real opportunity to keep in touch with people who like the same interests, hockey.
Igor Antonov moved to Vancouver from Russia. Hockey Community has been his social outlet in his new country.
Just click on it, press a button, I want to play hockey tonight. I have a few buddies, I want to play. What community gives you is a place and time.
Many more countries like Russia, Czech Republic, France, Belgium, etc. Turns out that the smaller the countries and the smaller hockey is in the countries, the more we are useful because people are dying to connect with hockey players worldwide.
And connecting is easy. Joining the site is free, and with a few clicks, you can find a game, find a goalie, even find equipment. And you'll definitely find someone in love with hockey as much as you are.
I always joke that Hockey Community has kind of been my boyfriend replacement. I don't date now, I just play hockey, but that's okay. I still get asked out, but mostly just by guys to go and play on their team. But you know, that's flattering too, so.
Skating game beats the dating game every time. Back up to Prince George and Shane Foxman. Shane.
Thanks very much, Ron. We're at the CN Center in Prince George, midway through the second period. Despite being outshot more than 2-1, the hometown Cougars lead the Oil Kings by a score of 4-2. Big difference from last night's 8-0 shellacking. It is Hockey Day in Canada. We know Scotiabank extremely involved in the big day. Bruce Arthur's joining us, Vice President of Scotiabank. And Bruce, I look around here, I see lots of smiles. And I imagine when you guys are sitting around boardrooms talking about Hockey Day, it's stuff like this that you imagine.
Absolutely right. Thank you, Shane. Scotiabank Hockey Day in Canada is all about the youth and the hockey in Canada. Everybody needs a team to believe in, and I got to believe that the Cougars at 4-2 being outshot are giving the Prince George folks something to believe in. It's just fabulous to be here in Prince George as part of Scotiabank Hockey Day in Canada.
And it's your old stomping ground.
Yes, I started my career here, and so it's fun to be back. I was handing out toques on the concourse, meeting the folks. It's been just a fabulous day for our folks here today.
Well, thank you so much, Bruce. Continued success. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Shane.
Bruce Arthur's Vice President of Scotiabank. 4-2 Cougars lead in the second. Ron?
Shane, thank you kindly. We'll take a short break and continue our celebration of the game on Scotiabank Hockey Day in Canada in a moment. Dion Phaneuf's brother Dane is here with the Sherwood Park Crusaders. They play the Lloydminster Bobcats on Hockey Day in Canada coming up shortly. Of course, we have Tyler Bozak, Phil Kessel, PK Subban, Toronto, Montreal, part of the Scotiabank celebration here, and an AJHL game also dead ahead. Well, as we said earlier, it's never too late to have a happy childhood. Bernie Bennett now, his story from Yellowknife with Lauren McGuinness.
Many a Canadian kid has learned to play hockey on a frozen pond. It's one of the Canadian dreams, right up there with playing in the National Hockey League. And while he's not a kid, Bernie Bennett can dream with the best of them.
Whoops. Got too much of that one.
A bit of incentive to hit the net. -20 with no wind is perfect for pond hockey. But even when the temperature drops to -40, too cold for the pond, Bennett's training doesn't slow down.
Bend your knees a little bit ahead of your toes, shoulders over your knees, head and chest up, and arms up relatively at the waist level.
Bennett has converted his garage into an off-ice training facility that would make most pro athletes jealous. He bought the skating simulator himself, but the synthetic surface that mimics ice, that was a Christmas present from his wife.
And you're not supposed to look at it, but I always look at it.
His very supportive wife.
The first time I went skating, he couldn't stop, so he would just slam into a snowbank and then fall down. So, like I said, just like watching little kids skate, you know how they try to walk? So that's what he was doing. And it's like, oh my goodness, this is really bad. Like, I don't know what's going to happen here, but like I said, he doesn't give up.
Bennett says he trains 15 to 20 hours per week, both on and off the ice. A lot of that training takes place on the ice surface where he'll play with the Habs. Bennett's friends have formed a sort of practice squad and coaching committee, so he's not short on tips or encouragement.
Bernie's biggest weapon is definitely his shot. He has a lot of power behind it, and it's really hard to read because you know, his speed kind of takes away from his talent of his shot.
Bennett believes he'll score in the big game. Some of that confidence comes from who he'll be playing with, taking passes from the likes of Larry Robinson and Steve Shutt. But Bennett also believes in himself.
I could see myself coming in, maybe faking a shot. If I can get the goalie to go to his knees, then maybe a quick move to my forehand or backhand and roof it up high.
Bennett doesn't want to talk about all his moves. Some must remain top secret, he says, so as not to give any goalies the upper hand. For now, though, practice, practice, practice. The 52-year-old rookie has his big game with the Canadians on January 25th. For Hockey Day in Canada, I'm Lauren McGuinness in Yellowknife.
Bernie Bennett has to have a cannon close to Wendell Clark caliber. That really is impressive for the 52-year-old. Congratulations on that. Well, as we wrap this portion of celebrating the game, we've got lots of NHL hockey ahead and hockey tonight, but I just wanted to kind of tie the bow on all of this with the idea of a kid and having fun, because truly, at the end of the day, that's what takes the great ones. Walter Gretzky used to bring Wayne from game to game to game. There's a smile from Brantford, Ontario. It's legendary. We all know what became of the great one. Gordie Howe learned to play the game when there was a pair of skates left at his home in Saskatoon, and look at Gordie when he was a kid. But probably my favorite smile of all time belongs to Bobby Orr. Bobby just put out his book. There's a photo from his new book. Sil Apps Jr. is the man on the right. Jillian Apps, a great member of our national women's program. Sil's dad, a hero of Dick Irvin's mom. Sil Apps Jr. won this hockey tournament. Bobby says, do I look like a guy that just lost the big game? That smile, for me, says it all. Coming up, the national news. There'll also be some local news in some parts of the country. Don't forget, we're back with hockey tonight to tee up the game from Air Canada Centre, downtown Toronto. It's a doubleheader night tonight with Calgary off in Vancouver as well. For now, we'll take a short break and say so long from all of us here in the border city. A wheat field, soul, and the Canadian goal.